Could some new Bears free agent targets become available in the near future? We're going to talk about that here on Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. I take a look at 5 players in close detail, plus some honorable mentions based on some cut candidates that have been mentioned via The Athletic and NFL.com. And we know this time of year teams start to shed some cap space. We've seen the Dolphins do a lot of that. The Bears themselves, as of filming this, have cut Eamon Ogbongbemiga, obviously a smaller name. We'll see what happens with Tremaine Edmonds. So we'll dive into some players on other teams that if they become available, maybe the Bears would sign, kind of like Grady Jarrett last year, who was a bit of a surprise cut by Atlanta. Okay, can we beat it? The most liked video here on Bears Now in the month of February got 1,797 likes. Can we get 1,800 or more? Can we top that on today's show? If you love this show, if you love the Bears, if you want to support me, hit that like button. We would greatly appreciate it. Okay, the first one I'm going to mention is a rival, Rashan Gary with the Green Bay Packers, who we were kind of making fun of this year because he, from a sack production, fell off a cliff in the second half of the year. Matt Schneidman, via The Athletic, had this to say about Rashan Gary, saying another cut candidate is defensive end Rashan Gary, who has a 2026 base salary of $18 million. Cutting him after he went missing in the second half of the year would free up about $11 million in cap space. So Rashan Gary, who I've long kind of compared to Montez Sweat, like good player, but not that like dominant top dog on a defensive line. He still had good production last year, right? He did have 7.5 sacks. He had 20 QB hits. The problem is all 7.5 of those sacks came in the first 7 weeks of the season. He had zilch, the final 10 weeks and in the playoff game against the Bears the rest of the way. And a decent amount of those games were still with Micah Parsons on the other side. So what happened? Was he playing through something? Did he just get into a funk? Did he fall off? Like, I kind of find it hard to believe that he's just a bad football player now. Historically, he's been pretty good against the run. He's had sack production. His PFF grades are still decent this year. It's not like he was bad. His pass rush win rate of 13% is still solid. So, again, I don't think he's just a bad football player. If he got cut and you could get him on a reasonable 1 or 2 year deal, like what if you could get him for like 2 years and $30 million, $15 million on a 2-year deal, 20 guaranteed? I wouldn't mind that. Now, again, that's not my top guy I'm looking at. I'd rather have a Trey Hendrickson. I'm still exploring Max Crosby if I'm the Bears. But again, kind of like when Bradley Chubb got cut, as many of these guys that free up, the better that is for the Bears because they need to bring in help on their defensive line. So I'm keeping an eye on Rashan Gary, who obviously knows this division well and would probably have some motivation to go up against Green Bay if they ended up cutting him. Speaking of those frauds, those Packers, you know what to do. Get the FGBs going down in the comments of this video and let those cheeseheads hear it. All right, B.J. Hill, the defensive tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's always been a player I've liked from afar. He's just kind of a steady presence. He's not special, but he's just good. Like, he gives you some sack production. He's pretty good against the run. He's a savvy vet. I would kind of view this like Grady Jarrett, but he's a different body type. He's a little bit bigger in terms of like, hey, his peak days are probably behind him, but on a 1 or 2 year team-friendly deal, come chase a Super Bowl, you need dudes in this rotation. You need volume of guys, especially in the interior. I don't love this interior group right now. I think B.J. Hill could come in here and be a pretty productive player. He's still graded out pretty well, and if you look at this group from last year, what is Javon Dexter's long-term future? Andrew Billings is probably gone. I like Grady Jarrett. I think he came along, but, he's not worth what the Bears paid him. If you could get B.J. Hill on a more team-friendly type of contract, throw him into a rotation with Dexter and Jarrett, maybe you draft a talented guy in the first round as well, that's a pretty good foursome for next year. I think you'd feel pretty good about that group. If you had Hill and Jarrett as your veterans, Dexter as a young player that you hope takes another step, and then a rookie, I think that group of 4 you'd feel better about than what you currently have. 8.2% pass rush win rate is still solid for a defensive tackle. How about Tony Pollard? Go to the offensive side of the ball. I think Tony Pollard has quietly been one of the better running backs in the league for a while. I mean, you look at his numbers, you're like, wow, he's rushed for over 1,000 yards in 4 straight seasons. Now, he's never been like an elite tier A running back, but he has some explosiveness. He's always been a pretty good pass catcher. That production in that regard has dipped in recent years, but I think you can still get a decent amount of amount of production out of him in the passing game. I do think there's similarities with DeAndre Swift, and that's kind of where this conversation stops for me. I'd probably just keep Swift for this year. Like, I don't think I'm going out of my way to cut or trade Swift to bring in Tony Pollard, right? Like, it's kind of the Spider-Man meme. Like, they're pretty similar. Similar tier player that do similar things. But he is a good player, and who knows? Maybe he's cheap. What if you get him for $5 million? Like, okay, and like cut Swift for 7.5, sign Pollard for 5. Maybe you'd consider that. Again, I don't consider him an upgrade from Swift, so I'm probably not like going crazy here. But I do think he's a solid player, and there's been chatter he could get cut. So you never know. I think if Ben Johnson sees an upgrade at running back, and maybe he'd view Pollard as an upgrade, I don't think he'd be shying away from that possibility if it was for the right guy and if it made sense. Okay, today's show sponsored by Marsman. Appreciate Marsman for sponsoring. I turned 33 this year, and fellas, I got to be honest, I was starting to feel it late last year. Most men start losing testosterone around age 30, and about 1% every year after that. When the new year hit, I kind of treated it like a reset. I wanted to feel energized again, not worn down, especially after a long football season. So this year, I'm keeping it simple, and I'm doing something natural that supports my body where it needs it. That's why I'm taking Marsman. It helps your body unlock usable testosterone so you can feel like yourself once again. Marsman supports healthy T levels, stamina, and energy. It has 8 natural and clinically dosed ingredients, including boron, vitamin D, and zinc, plus much more. Marsman is made in the United States and is third-party tested as well. You can also get a 90-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. Worst case, if you don't love it, you can absolutely get your money back. However, 91% of users report higher energy levels, so that's pretty unlikely. For a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 gifts when you check out. After you purchase, they're going to ask you where you found out about them. Tell them we sent you. Bears Now by Chat Sports. Okay, a couple more guys here. Javon Hargrave, who we've talked about multiple times way back in 2022, I believe. The Bears were interested when he ended up signing with the San Francisco 49ers. Last offseason, I don't know if the Bears were interested, but I was. He ended up signing with Minnesota on a 2-year, $30 million deal. And he had a decent year, but the Vikings are in a tough cap spot, and especially they're going quarterback hunting, so Hargrave's kind of an obvious cut for them. But that doesn't mean he can't play. He's just a cap casualty. To me, 1-year type of guy. He'll be 33. Could you get him 1 year, $6 to $8 million? Still a solid pass rusher, graded out at a 70 pass rush grade for Minnesota. He had 7 pressures in week 1 against the Bears. He actually ripped the Bears in that season opener. His production was kind of inconsistent the rest of the year, but over 10% pass rush win rate. That's a nice number for a defensive tackle. Not great against the run, but wasn't terrible this past year. I think if you have him, adding another run-stopping defensive tackle would be important. Okay, Arik Armstead, who's kind of a tweener in a 4-3 scheme. He could play some D-end. He could play some 3-tech. He's really more of an ideal 3-4 defensive tackle, to be honest. So I don't know how Dennis Allen would view a guy like Arik Armstead, but still a productive player. Now, he's making $19 million per year, so the Jags are probably going to look to cut bait and save some money there. But he's been a solid, steady presence for a while. I know he was a team leader with the 49ers. I would imagine that continued in Jacksonville as well. Pass rush win rate, again, over 10%. So if he played primarily on the interior, that's a good number. Again, kind of a tweener edge, defensive tackle type here. So you'd need to have a vision and a specific role for him. Maybe the role is just versatility. But, I think he falls into that category of, like, excellent 5th defensive lineman in a 4-3, where, like, he's your top rotation guy coming in and, playing half the snaps or whatever the case may be. So keep an eye on Armstead as well. Name a cut candidate around the NFL that you want the Bears to sign. Who could get cut that you'd like to see the Bears bring in here? I just mentioned 5 guys. A few others just to kind of take a mental note of. Ashawn Robinson, who's had a couple of nice years in Carolina. They could move on from him. He's a pretty good player. Uchenna Nwosu, again, more of a 3-4 edge rusher, but decent size. I think on a 1 or 2 year deal could make some sense. Bryce Huff, I don't really love, but it is an edge rusher. He has not had a great 2-year stretch here 2024 in Philadelphia, it was a disaster. This year it started pretty well with the 49ers, but then he hit a wall in October, so I don't love that idea. Tyreek Hill, I don't even know if he'll be healthy. I don't even know if the Bears would want to bring him in with his off-field baggage, but if he's healthy, he's a explosive as hell player and would be interesting in Ben Johnson's offense if they did get rid of DJ Moore. Again, I think that's a crazy long shot. Do have the Ryan Poles connection, though. And then James Conner. I've always liked James Conner. Arizona could look to move on. He was injured this past year. If it's cheap enough, I think he's a good player. So maybe he would be a running back option if they did pivot off DeAndre Swift. All right, that's it. Some cut candidates around the league. We'll see if the Bears pounce if some of these guys become available. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you guys soon. Bear down.